You were literally printing money back then, Matt, from two to upwards of 4 or 5 million a month.
I'm pleased to welcome today's guest, Joshua B. Lee. Joshua is known as the dopamine dealer of LinkedIn. He's a veteran entrepreneur involved in 16 businesses and author of the book Balance is Bullshit. He's helped clients like MySpace, Yahoo, and Google achieve over 35 trillion online impressions. That's amazing. He's worked with industry giants like Dan Sullivan of Strategic Coach and John C. Maxwell. Today, he works with high-level entrepreneurs to create content and sees massive opportunities on LinkedIn. Joshua, welcome to the podcast.
Matt, now I'm excited. I mean, you and I, even before we even kicked this off, we're just having too much fun. So we had to start hitting record and get into it to share it with the rest of the world.
Absolutely. This is so great. I have to start going way back with the hair because you have the signature hair. And if you're listening to this online, you can't see the beautiful mohawk that Joshua has.
And you talk about the hair. It's funny. I've always kind of played around with different hairstyles. I've been blessed to be able to have it, right? And
Right.
it's funny you talk about the mohawk too. It's my kids, both my kids. Well, I have three kids, but my two oldest kids. It's funny how they interact because walking around Austin, I get a lot of people that walk up like, "Oh, dude, I love your hair, man. That's awesome." Men and women, right? Like even when I'm on dates with my wife and with my daughter, she's always like, "Oh my God," she's 12. "Oh my God, everyone's always trying to be the center of attention." I'm like, I got it. I grew it. My son's like, "It's cool, Dad, that, he's 15. It's like, it's cool that people walk up to him, you make them smile." And that's what it is, right? Like when I met my wife, Matt, my hair wasn't like this. And honestly, even before my past marriage, like it was short. It was kind of like more of the faux hawk more, but like filled all in and stuff like that. And then after going through a divorce, I was like, man, I just need to change. And yeah, I started growing my hair out. So when my current wife, Rachel, met me, I actually had a man bun, aka top knot. So man bun is all the hair. I just had the top tied back and stuff like that. So, and she said that's what really grabbed her attention about me when we first met. So even when I cut it off, she was a little scared, but now this has become my new signature.
And so it's kind of your brand now. I'm guessing that if you changed your hairstyle and showed up at a meeting, most people wouldn't know who you are.
Matt, it's funny you say that. I don't know if I realized that as much just because of the fact. So I was just in Miami with a good friend of mine, Giovanni. He runs a group, Archangel. This is actually the council, his higher end group. And it was an amazing event. But like, I don't know, one of the days, the last day, I think I put my hat on and I walked up to people that I've known for 10 years. And not until I started talking, even after that, it took them a couple seconds to go, "Dude, I didn't even see you. I didn't even realize it was you." And I'm like, I guess I never paid attention that much to it. But yeah,
It's a brand. Even looking at you now and imagining what you would look like without it is difficult. And I can see you 80 years old in a nursing home, hopefully you never get there, but still having this gray-haired mohawk, I think it'd be great.
Matt, we're gonna get it, man. I mean, I was just, I told my daughter I was looking, I was like, "Oh man, I think I'm about 60% gray now." My daughter goes, "Dad, you're fooling yourself. You're 80% gray." I was like, "Come
Ah,
on."
my wife cuts my hair, and
Part
every
in the
time,
middle, you know?
yeah, every time my wife cuts my hair, there's more gray falling off of it, and I'm like, well, whose hair is that? Like, I
That's
must
why I keep
have
it short on my sides, right? Trying to be able
art. Yeah, yeah,
just to pretend, but it's all good. You're right. I will probably go gray and I have no problem with it. It is what it is. My wife asked me, she's like, "You just gonna have a gray hawk?" And I'm like, "Sure, why not?" I mean, maybe I'll change my style, but this one seemed to stick pretty well.
right, right. Well, you have a huge amount of success right now, but I'm sure you didn't start there. So let's talk about some of your early jobs and what were some of your first jobs?
Man, I mean, we could go way back, Matt. I mean, we can go to mowing lawns, and in middle school to, I mean, look, I was that entrepreneur selling candy out of my locker, so back then it was all upside because my parents were actually buying the candy. So 100%
Yeah,
um,
infinite return.
infinite returns, right? The one thing I had to learn really quickly though is I remember it's a funny story. It was like world cultures or something like that. And my mom's born in Germany. And so sometimes, her thought of what's okay is not always okay in the American society, because again, it's more European and more relaxed, more chill. And I think for they're like, oh, culture day, bring in something from your culture. So I brought in non-alcoholic beer. Not great to be able to do in seventh or eighth grade, but that wasn't the problem. The bigger problem was I decided after I gave my presentation that I would sell the non-alcoholic beer to my friends and to other
Oh
people.
my gosh.
That got me in trouble a little bit. So to say that I've had that spirit in me for a long time, if there's a need, how do you fill it? Has been there. And I mean, it took a lot of refinement because initially, being an only child growing up, I really, before I knew it, I was doing NLP, reading people, body language, body movement, patterns, mimicking them. And, a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of people in this world, they kind of manipulate people to sell. And I'm going to tell
Hmm.
you, and in the beginning, I probably wasn't any different, right? I was that person. One of my first jobs after working at Chili's, being a server and other aspects, I worked for a company called GTE Wireless. Now, the young ones listening in, they're probably like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
But GTE Wireless became Singular Wireless. That doesn't exist anymore, which became, I think it's AT&T now, right? Whatever it might be. But I
Yep.
was one of the youngest corporate account executives there. And I mean, so like that was an early time for me to be able to kind of go in and really be able to crush amazing goals because again it was all about selling, but I would actually mimic the patterns, the language patterns, things like that of the people that I was talking to because and the human condition is to be able to connect with people of commonality. We see this
Mhm.
across the board. This is why you and I are ingenious because there's a lot of commonality with the
Yep.
human beings that are in there that Joe brings together that makes us feel at home. And so I was using that in some of my selling. Luckily I learned, it didn't take me too long. That's not the way to be able to go. But, I started my first real company in 2003 in the online advertising space out in California. And I happened to be, one of my first clients was the small company you mentioned in the beginning, MySpace, where understanding online advertising and human dynamics, I helped them design one of the first social media ads to be able to monetize their traffic.
For some of the people who don't know or remember MySpace, can you explain what MySpace is?
I always love this. It's funny too. Like my wife always says, like, yeah, you tell everyone MySpace was a client, you show how old you are. I'm like, thank you. And this is where we have to explain what some of these companies are that I've been talking about.
Yeah.
And no, MySpace was one of the first social media platforms out there. I mean, it was the Wild West being able to go in and I mean, people would go through and you had all this ability to change and your entire look and feel of the landing page platform that people would go to of one of the first social media platforms out there. And it's funny. I mean, so many people got in trouble because even when it went away, and I think Justin Timberlake bought it at one point in time, there's lots of different changes of hands. But people forgot to change their profiles and then they go for jobs and people look it up. I'm like, what's going on over here? Yeah, because I mean, the site still existed, but they just walked away and went to Facebook and all the other different platforms that were out there. So that was it. I mean, we created ads and we were doing arbitrage at the time, which was I created the ad unit. MySpace provided the traffic, and then we were actually getting the ads from a company called Overture that became Yahoo. And it was crazy. I mean, we were literally printing money back then, Matt. I mean, it was a couple $1 million a month that we were doing because we were buying traffic, so people's clicks for pennies on the dollar, and turning around and selling that to Yahoo for anywhere from $1 to, I remember the keyword mesothelioma was paying like $500 a click. So when you're paying a
Wow.
penny for a click and you're making the margin on that, it was crazy. And this is before everyone really understood how to be able to actually do tracking, actually see conversions, all that kind of aspect. So like I was the traffic guy. I was the person that
So,
monetized traffic in a world that didn't have any guardrails.
the podcast is for new and maybe existing entrepreneurs. And so sometimes we can get ahead of them, right? So let's break it down first,
Thank you.
arbitrage.
Yeah. Arbitrage, buy low, sell high. So, and thank you, Matt, because this is where, some of these things. So, like if I'm arbitrage is used a lot in stocks and other aspects of going through, but right now we were buying traffic for, let's say, a penny a click. So MySpace provided that traffic to someone going onto their website and clicking on an ad unit that we created on their website. And we would, MySpace would charge me a penny every time someone clicked, or sometimes even half of a cent. And then I would turn around and redirect that ad unit to a ad that I was getting from a company like Yahoo that was paying me $500 a click. And the
So
arbitrage
you're
is making the money on the middle.
so arbitrage is used. Sometimes people are using it on different exchanges, right? Like the New York Stock Exchange versus the Japanese,
Correct.
whatever
And they're
it's
doing
called.
it daily, right? That's day trading. And that's a different
Right.
word for day trading. Yeah.
But so you're making 500 and you bought it for half a
I
cent.
did, let's say half a cent, right? So, and I keep the margin.
That's amazing. And so the
Doesn't
more you're
happen anymore
making,
like that. This was 20 years ago.
well, right, it was the Wild West back then. But you were able to then, with the profit, were you able to, just spend that? Were you plowing it back into the business? What were you
I
doing with that?
invested a lot. I mean, we went through, I mean, we were doing anywhere from two to upwards of 4 or 5 million a month in revenue. And there's a lot of people in that space that they were going out buying their yachts and their supercars and their houses. And then there would be a drop, or there would be an issue with their traffic or whatever it is. And all of a sudden they'd lose everything. And luckily I was a little, I mean, look, I had some fun, but at the same time, I was trying to be able to build something. I was trying to be able to grow and I was trying to build my company up. And, it was great. I had the realization at one point too that people were coming to me to be able to understand what I did. But at the same time, they did amazing things. And so I had built an infrastructure of, accounting, salespeople, IT, and I was able to leverage that to be able to build other companies by finding someone, let's say like you, Matt, and saying, hey, you are amazing at X. Let me give you my infrastructure. I'm going to take 51% of the company. You take 49, you run it. I'm just going to provide all the back end and we'll scale. And I
Wow.
built a lot of different companies that way in many different verticals, allowing that person to be the expert of the way they did and let me be on the back end side to be able to provide those resources that they could not build themselves.
How did you approach somebody when you saw this? Or, I mean, how, for somebody
Most
who's
of it was
new,
coaching. So I had a lot of people coming to me for coaching. Hey, how do you do this? How do you monetize online? I need to be able to scale the business. You're doing great. And I'd always bet on a person than the idea. And so when I got to be able to come in, they're coaching me, asking me for advice, for mentorship. I would be able to get to know these people. So it wasn't like I was actively going out and seeking these resources or seeking these opportunities, I should say. People were coming to me looking for insight, looking for support, looking for mentorship. And when I found the right person that I believed in, I made the offer, right? Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But I mean, like that was the thing because I always believe ideas come and go. But if you bet on the right human being, that stands the test of time. And that's always been something that's stuck with me. When I look at the through point through all my companies and what I've done, even before I realized it, was my parents taught me above all, hold respect, not only just for yourself, but for others. And that was certain thing that shifted those different aspects, right? It was in the beginning, the respect was I need to be able to build a big company because that's what we were taught. Big company, lots of money, that gets you respect. No, right? And it's different. And so like that's where some of these different aspects kind of came in was like, how do I respect these people that I'm going through, what I'm building? How do I actually have this show up every single day and, really be able to build a company that I'm proud of? And over years, I'll be honest, man, I mean, like I built I built right now 16 different companies. I've sold a couple, I've walked away from a lot, and that was around my divorce, but I built those companies originally. And outside looking in, if you look back in 2014, people would say I was successful. They base success on monetary value in this world. And I'm going to tell you, that's not how everyone defines success because at that point in my life, I was in a marriage that wasn't working well because again, a lot of it was that I was doing this whole work-life balance, right? I was working as hard as I was playing as hard as I was working. And so I was losing myself. And, I had, when we look in this, I mean, I was 40 pounds overweight, never been overweight in my life. My relationships had become monetary, and I had no vision about where I was going. I just knew where I was at. And that's just how everything was kind of going in. And
what was your definition of success at that time?
well, it's what I was taught. Amass as much money as possible, right? How much
And
money
so,
you have in the bank is success. And that wasn't success. It never
and so
had been what I was taught.
So you had a lot of money in the bank at that time?
I mean, I was a millionaire by 28. I've been a millionaire twice in my life. I'm not going to say I am now. And actually, I'm happier.
Really?
And I'm actually more fulfilled in everything that I do right now compared to when I was trying to be able to, push for that almighty dollar because that I was making money the focal point. Money should be a byproduct of what we do, not the main focal point of what we do. Because again, we'll always be looking for more. And that's what I had to shift for me because I mean, like when I made it the focal point, after I had kids, like I moved back my office back to my home, Matt, and because I wanted to be that dad, I want to be that active dad, I want to be that present father, and I always had my office doors open. And I remember one day, because I had my office doors open, let me back up a little bit. I had my office doors open just because of the fact that if I couldn't say it for my kids, I shouldn't say it at all. Right? Like that's the way I believed. And
Hmm.
too many people played a different game, right? I had too many friends that were changing their online name every 6 months because they would make as much money as humanly possible, monetize, probably screw some people over, and then get burnt, and then they have to start over again, start their new persona, whatever it is. And I was like, dude, this is insane. It's crazy. I don't want to do this. And so that's what I do with my kids, but there were still all those other aspects of my life that I wasn't really paying attention to. Growing up, being an only child with parents that never got divorced, and an entrepreneur, I can always fix everything. It's like I was trying to fix the relationship by having my first child, having my second child, because I always wanted to be a dad. Having kids doesn't fix a relationship. Just in case anyone's wondering.
Right?
And again, as an entrepreneur, I can always fix this. And I remember one day when my office door was shut, Matt, and I mean, I was running 10 different companies at the time, six, seven, and eight figures. Everyone thought I was successful, but I would go in my office, and my office became not only my sanctuary, but my coffin, where I would actually stare at the wall, contemplating if the money I would leave for my kids would actually be more important than me. And that was a hard time in my life. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs go through that more so than we realize.
How did you get to that point? What were your daily habits or routines? Because I mean, when I look at successful people, they do things in a certain way to get them here, but you can also do things in a certain way to get you to the point where you were suicidal.
Yeah, I mean, it was just, I was in the doing, right? Every single day. I mean, like, look, I didn't have to. I mean, we had almost 100 employees at the time. I was running multiple companies. I had CEOs of every single company. I didn't have much time, but it was my personal, how I was taking care of myself, right? I wasn't feeding my body, my mind the right way. I wasn't surrounding myself with people that pushed me to be better. I mean, look, I had a lot of amazing humans, some that I grew up with, but they were content in working for me. I had a relationship and a family that, not my direct family, but my in-laws, like that were happy for my success, but didn't want to hear me talk about it because that was bragging. And so it was hard. I was living this double-edged sword of having success, but not being able to celebrate the things that I was doing in this world and feel content about it. And I was in a relationship. And here's the thing, if you're not, you can't be 100% you 100% of the time at your home. How can you be that for everybody else? And so that's how I kind of got to that point, and I started making a shift. I met a good friend of mine, Jesse Elder. He's here in Austin, Texas. And honestly, it's funny because he gave me permission. And a lot of human beings, I'll say men more so because I just know from that perspective, sometimes we need permission even to give ourselves. And I needed that permission. He gave me permission to not only take my life back, but give my former hers. And that was a huge shift for me, right? To be able to go in. Because prior to that, man, I was going through different things. I was trying to change. And I remember the gap between me and my former had gotten so large because of the fact that I was trying to do better on this world. And I remember her saying, what are you trying to do? Why are you trying to change this world? Right? Like, why don't you just do what you do best? Make money.
Money solves some problems, but not all problems.
No. And I mean, at that point in time, Jesse gave me the permission to be able to take my life back. I had met another amazing human, Yannick Silver, who runs Maverick 1000 early on in that group. And I remember going to Necker Island to meet Richard Branson for the first time and realizing there's other people in this world that make a lot of money, can celebrate each other's successes, but also be there to catch you when you fall. and actually do well into this world. And I was like, this is my crew. I finally found the people that I align with. And that was the shift. And that's why when I went through my divorce, I walked away from everything because my lawyers go, this is going to take 3 years. You've got companies that they think there's money hidden everywhere. I said, I can always make more money. I can't make more time. I'm not going to put my kids through this. And so I walked away. I gave everything to my former. And at 36, I moved back in with my parents with a little bit under $1,000 in my name to restart and be able to save time with my kids.
What you're describing for other entrepreneurs, if once you hit a certain level, it really does become hard to talk about what you're making. Because when you're making $55,000 a year or $80,000 a year, and somebody comes in and says, I'm making $4 or $5 million a month, it doesn't make you feel good about yourself. And it doesn't actually make them feel good to not be able to talk to somebody who can understand the same problems. And it's a very unique situation to be in. And I think unless you've been at that level and truly been at that level, it's very lonely. They say it's lonely at the top. And it's not just because when you're the CEO of a company, sometimes you don't have friends, you have coworkers. And so being in a group like Genius Network is someplace where you can have friends and you can talk about your successes and they will help celebrate them.
Yeah,
And that's, I think, one of the most amazing things that it's that.
that's it. And that's what people have to think about. You talk about the entrepreneurs that are listening in, that are starting out or, just, a couple years into it. You want to be able to surround yourself with those people, right? They have to be able to be there, yes, 100% to high five you when you have successes, but also be able to be able to be there and say, hey, I got you when you fall, right? Like they have to be able to understand those different aspects. And that's what really pushes you. Having people that are just there to be able to, for the ride doesn't push you anywhere. It just surrounds you with people that will do what you want to do, but when the money's not there, they're not around and they don't want to hear all the other stuff. And I think that's really important because as entrepreneurs, we take the world on ourselves. And so we already a lot of times silo ourselves. We don't want to take in, and we're like, oh, we're the strongest. We've got no cracks. We can hold the entire world like Atlas on our back, but we don't have to. And that's the biggest thing and that was one thing I was ruining in my own relationship was I was holding the entire world on my back, trying to protect my family and my former. And that wasn't helpful for me or for her. And that wasn't fair. And I had to learn that as well too. And I think that's really important because I don't want people to separate this whole, work life or personal life. And this is why I wrote my book, Balance is Bullshit, Matt. There is no work-life balance, right? If you have a work life, you have a personal life, that's like having two different personalities. If you have two different personalities in this world, either you're taking a hell of a lot of meds or you're in an insane asylum trying to be able to figure that mental aspect out. We have one life and we have to live it that way. So like I want everyone to understand like when I talk about this stuff, business or personal, it is one life. You have to be that person. And you have to be able to show up the same way on both sides of the coin.
That's really great. There's a new show out called Severance. I don't know if you've seen it. I think it's on
Yep.
Apple TV, but yeah, that's
Yep.
exactly what you're talking about. For those of you who haven't seen it, it's the idea that there's an upper, they call it the outie, and then the inner, the innie, and they completely separate, right? Like here's
Yeah.
your work life, and then you go outie and you're back doing
Doesn't go up
whatever
the
they do.
elevator all of a sudden. Yeah.
Yeah, they go through the magic elevator and it disconnects that. But no, we are circular, right? Our business and personal lives intertwine. So that's a good place to segue into, unless there's anything else you want to add.
No, I mean, I hope I didn't go too far too deep because I mean, it just, as you know me, I'm an open share. So I want everyone to really understand, my why of what I do, where I am today because of where I've been.
How did you get out of that place? What did you have to go through? If somebody's going through that right now, what was the flashlight or the light switch that you had to turn on to find a better way?
I don't think it was me finding that light switch because everyone think again, that's what the entrepreneur like, oh, I can do it myself. You can't do it yourself. I thought that the light switch was I walked away, I started my life over. I walked away from everything that was holding back. I had companies that were making money that just weren't making me happy, but I kept them because, well, they made money. That's stupid just to close out a company just because like you don't like it anymore. People would look at you like you're crazy. And I'm like, but like it makes you unhappy. Like, there was no I wasn't adding any value to this world. I was just monetizing it. And, I was like, man, I'm free. I was out. I was going to hang out with my buddies. I was out downtown all the time. I was on the new dating apps because I've been in a relationship for 10 years. These things didn't even exist, when I went in. And I didn't realize that I was actually still in a mini depression because when I wasn't out, when I wasn't totally going through, when I wasn't with my kids, I was on the couch and I wasn't doing anything. And I would do whatever I needed to do because once you know how to make money, you can always make money. I know that sounds pompous, but I mean, like in our world, I mean, it is a truth. There's ways everyone can figure out how to make money. How bad do you want to do it? And what are you willing to be able to go to do to make it happen? I mean, anyone here listening, people are like, oh, I can't find a job. There's jobs out there. You can dig a ditch. You can work at McDonald's. There's lots of opportunities. You just have to be able to push yourself to be able to do that. And so like I would always find a way to monetize something online, pay the bills, be able to go in, but not until I went and called my friends, very good, closer friends of mine, a lot of them that were actually in my second wedding as my groomsmen. And I reached out to them and I said, hey, you know, this is where I'm at. Because prior to that, Matt, I think this is what messes up most people. Our perception of other people's perception of us is what drives us crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say that again for everybody because I want you to understand it. Our perception of everyone else's perception is what drives us crazy. We have no clue what someone perceives about us unless they tell us directly. But most of us go in, walk into a room, walk through the house, look at social media and be like, oh, well, people look at me like this. This is how they think about me. How do you know that's in your own mind? And that's what I was doing to myself. My perception of everyone else's perception of me, I was still this guy that everyone went to for their problems, for their issues to be able to monetize. I was holding myself up on a pillar that I didn't need to. And that was actually causing more of my depression than anything. And when I finally released that, I told my friends, I said, we know, we've been waiting for you. Dude, my life changed the next day. Opportunities came in. Life started pouring back into me. I just had to release everything I thought I was and just be who I am.
So
100% me. Yeah, go
you were
ahead.
trying to be this persona that people believed you were. And I'm sure owning
Well,
that
that
many
I
companies,
believe people believe my words.
right, right, yes. And that's even, like you said, that's the worst thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And that was hard. And then, the biggest thing was, and I finally released it, and it's something that stuck with me today. It allows me to have an amazing relationship with my wife, Rachel, an amazing relationship with my children, with the employees that work at my company. Be 100% me, 100% of the time, on and offline, right? It's so much easier to be able to do this because, again, most of us try and have these. I've met and I've had clients, all these amazing human beings on stage. They're this one person. Then when you meet them, you're like, whoa, that's night and day. Like, who are you? Like, you're pretending to be this person to be able to influence people, but like, that's not the real you. So, like, why are you doing this to the world? Because as human beings, we are going to make decisions based on some degree of love or hate. We are not going to make decisions based on being indifferent to something. So look, if I know that people are going to love or hate me, so be it. If I'm going to try and fit in everywhere, I'm just being indifferent. I'm just fitting in the crowd like everybody else. Well, that's just wasting time. And that's one thing I'm not willing to do anymore.
So how did you get to this point? It sounds like a wonderful point. What's the process? If you don't mind me doing a little deeper dive on this, how
Please.
did you get there?
I really, one, I had to, open up my friends. I mean, I still remember I was in South Austin at a house I was renting in Menchaca. And I remember the first time I went for a run and afterwards I got on my phone. I think it was this when we all did the Facebook stuff and I did a Facebook video live or whatever. And I was like, hey, here's everything on the table. Here's what I went through. Here's what happened. I just want everyone to know. I'm sick of trying to put on the charade, this fakeness of pretending to be something I'm not. And, make your decisions because again, everyone is. That was a big shift there. And then it was really going in and actually following something I put in my book on, and I learned this as well from a good friend of mine, Hal Elrod. I don't know if you know Hal or not, but yeah.
I haven't met him, but I've read his book. I'm very familiar with him. Yeah.
Miracle Morning, I highly recommend everyone to check it out. Hal actually wrote the afterword of my book. So I really appreciate him. And, it's about starting your morning, right? Like I realized that to be able to, I've always been a person that was a giving individual. I would give everything to anyone because again, that's just who I was. But the problem was I wasn't filling my own cup up. So I was always running on empty. And so like I wasn't able to be able to come back from these things. And the one thing I tell my kids, I talked to you about that through line of respect that my parents always taught me, treat everyone with the same respect. Well, most people say treat everyone with the same respect that you want to be treated with. But the problem is we forget to respect ourselves first. How can you expect anyone else to have respect for you if you do not have respect for yourself? And I tell my kids that all the time. I'm like, yeah, you want respect, but like I watch how you take care of yourself, watch what you're doing. Like you have to, if you want to get respect, like show people how you respect you, and they'll mimic that. Right. And that was the same thing. So that's where I had to make a shift. And it was how I started my day. And this is the biggest thing that I think most people in this world mess up is because we're so entwined and people listening, you can't see this, but I'm holding up my phone. And when we wake up in the morning, the first thing that 90% of this world does, well, maybe less, but it seems like that. It seems like 100% these days.
Right.
First thing they do is reach for their phone. And what you are doing is you are setting precedents that the outside world is more important than you. And that's what I changed. That's what I shifted, Matt. I didn't want to set the precedent because guess what? The world didn't blow up. My company still survived. No one died. Because guess what? I'm going to get a phone call. I'm not going to find it on the socials. I'm not going to find any email or text, right? Those are big events in life. So if someone's just going to text me or post it on social about one of those three things, like there's something else wrong with the people that I'm surrounding myself with. So if that's the case, I don't need to watch TV. I don't need to look at my phone. I don't need to be able to look at my email. Those things will still continue on for another 2 hours. So how can I pour into myself? How can I take time to be able to meditate in the morning, to be able to, feed my brain, read a book, work out, spend time with my family, and then start my day in the business side. And that was the shift that really turned my corner and allowed me to be able to be where I am today. Well, I can't count out the fact that I met an amazing woman, Rachel, and I mean, we are, people always say two halves of a whole, but we are two holes of a bigger whole, right? Like 100%, 100%,
Yes.
not 50,
Yep.
50. And she does definitely make me better. And it's amazing to be able to stand by her and not only watch her grow, but actually now partner with her in our company, Standout Authority. So like these are all the things that allow me to be where I am today. And it started off with me first, putting my mask on. People say that all the time. And honestly, I just I'll take a second, because really it's hard. I'm not going to tell you it's easy to be able to put your mask on first. It's the hardest lesson you'll learn. And so you'll start doing it, and then all of a sudden something will happen, and then you'll forget again. I mean, even in the last year, Matt, I've been going through a lot of family stress in my family. My kids have been, going through some trauma that happened and really addressing that, being able to go through and over the last year. And it's been extremely hard to be able to watch them go through that. And watching them trying to be everything for them and even stepping away from the company at a certain point to be able to allow my wife to be able to run things so I could be the dad I needed to be for them. It honestly, I forgot again to put my mask on. And all of a sudden, my wife even saw it. I was giving 200% of myself to my kids, and I had nothing left for myself. And she could see me deteriorating. And so, like, and how can I help my kids if I can't help myself first to be there for them? And so, like, I just want to set a precedence of that to everybody that I might say this, yes, put your mask on. You hear everyone talk about, oh, you got to wake up. There's going to be ebbs and flows. This is why life is not balanced. There is no work-life balance or balance is steady. It doesn't move. It's static. We have to be able to think of life integration. How do we integrate the things in our life that make us who we are? Sometimes there's going to be more of one than the other, but we have to make sure they're all integrated within that, making us that one life.
Absolutely. we teach our EMTs and paramedics scene safety. And one of the first things that we teach them is if the scene is not safe for you to enter it, don't enter it until it's made safe. So the kind of question comes like a traffic accident on I-35. You see a semi and multiple cars. We have to block traffic before we ever get out of the ambulance or the fire truck, right?
Yeah.
Because otherwise we're going to become a victim ourselves. And like you said, that's really hard to do because it's in our nature, if you're going to EMT or paramedic school, that you want to help people. And
Yeah.
just like you want to help people, you want to help them grow their business. But we really do need to put our own oxygen mask on first. We really do need to worry about our own self first.
Yeah.
And it's really hard. And some people can do it. And some people, it takes a long time.
And it's interesting you say that too, because people are going to take this as the personal side, right? Like, oh, well, personally, I need to eat better, I need to go through, but like on the business side, again, they're all the same thing. You have to be able to think about this too. How many business owners, Matt, have you met or known in your lifetime that are amazing at what they do, except they don't do it for themselves?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm
Yes.
a marketing company, but I can't market for myself. I'm a branding company, but my branding sucks. Like I see it,
It's
you
like the
know,
computer repair guy who, when he goes home, his computer's broken,
yeah.
right? Yeah, we have to do it for ourselves personally, and you're right, and for our businesses. So
And
yeah,
if you think
that's
that you
great.
can do it for some, look, it's always easy to be able to do something for somebody else because it's not you, right? You're not having to look inside that, you're not having to be inside that jar where you can't see the label on the outside. And if you can actually, if you want to hit excellence in this world and excellence at really being able to make an impact, when you can actually be the best in the world at being able to do it for yourself, everyone else is easy because you're going to be the hardest client that you've ever had. So when you can really lock that down, man, every other opportunity that comes across you, you might think it's going to be tough, but honestly, it's going to set yourself up for success.
Yeah, that's great. I love what you're talking about with self-respect. Our students are in uniform. They are supposed to shave every day. They're supposed to take care of themselves. Their hair is supposed to be combed. And at first, they feel like posers, but eventually they start feeling that self-esteem that comes from taking care of yourself, right? And their grades are better, their behavior is better. They tend to be better EMTs and paramedics. And so, back to your point about self-respect with your kids, it's genuine. We have to take care of ourselves first. So that's great.
Matt, you and I have to be able to continue to be able to push that because again, I see in this world, I mean, with social media, things like that, everyone's in this compare mentality and they're comparing themselves to everyone else all the time, what they see online. And they don't realize that when those cameras are off of those other social media influencers, it ain't this special life. And so they're
No.
trying to base themselves on this whole 10 seconds or 60 seconds of video time and not seeing the rest of that life. And so like that's why you have to like not try and compare yourself, but like if you're going to compare yourself with anyone, compare yourself from who you are today versus who you were yesterday, right? How can you be better than who you were yesterday? But everyone else is different.
And how many people have you seen? They're doing the Instagram, Snapchat, whatever smile, like they're on a beach and they're like, hey, I'm so happy. And the minute the camera goes off, they're miserable, they're complaining, they're toxic. And I remember when Facebook first came out, I actually was like, oh, everybody's happier than I am. And
Yeah.
it started to get me down and I had to disconnect from it. There's a great book out there, Dopamine Detox, and it really talks about what we're talking about. And the idea is that you've got to cut out a lot of this stuff because we're getting this artificial dopamine. And dopamine is the happy chemical that you get from accomplishing a task, getting you something done. And sometimes we cut out the hard work that comes before and after dopamine. And now
Yeah.
we just think it's dopamine. So
Well,
this
and it's
is,
funny you talk about that, right, man? Because like I was given the title the dopamine dealer of LinkedIn,
yes.
and people go, oh, it's dopamine, and they have this bad connotation because how it's actually used and leveraged in most spaces, it's to be able to get people hooked. But in the right scenario, when used appropriately, dopamine allows flow state between two human beings. And flow state actually allows you to be able to build a deeper bond and deeper connection with somebody. Most brands, most companies, social media, they're trying to be able to use it to get you hooked. But like the things that we do, we look at the human algorithm and how do I actually educate, inspire, and draw someone in? How do I actually build a relationship with them? Because again, everything is human to human, right? Not B to B or B to C, business to business or business to consumer. Every company is run by another human being. Most marketers forget that. And so like that's where we always have that shift because I have people all the time like, oh, you know what dopamine's doing? I go, yeah. And look, I didn't come up with the title. Someone gave it to me after looking on how I design, not trying to follow an algorithm like LinkedIn's algorithm or Facebook's or whatever that uses these against it. I looked at the human algorithm, the one that doesn't change, it just evolves slowly at a time. And how do we actually connect as human beings? And I use that to be able to build a higher value, high-end relationships with people because they forget to have conversations because conversations build relationships. Relationships create opportunity. In this world of dopamine, everyone's trying to get the quick hit today, hit sale. And it's just, it's emptiness.
Absolutely. I think there's probably too much dopamine in the world right now. We're getting it too easily. So we could
Yeah.
probably talk a long time about that. Real quick aside, dopamine for paramedics and in the healthcare field is given if you're in cardiac arrest, at least it used to be. I think they've gone away from it. It basically constricts your blood vessels and helps raise your blood pressure. And so we carried it on the ambulance forever. And if you had somebody in cardiac arrest with low blood pressure, you'd give them some IV fluids and give them some dopamine. It took me a long time to realize that dopamine is the happy chemical that comes from achievement. It's sometimes
Yeah.
called the chemical of more. So this is a
Love that.
great segue into what you're doing right now with your wife. Tell me about this.
Oh, Matt, I get to smile about what we get to do. I created about 10 years ago a company called Standout Authority. That is our current company now. And I really went from a shift from where I was monetizing the web to how do I actually create a change? Because the way we were going as marketers, as business owners, it wasn't going to be good for my kids. It wasn't going to be good for future generations. So I was like, how do we actually humanize the way we are online? And that's where it kind of started from. And I was like, well, what does that mean, right? What does it mean to be able to humanize the way we are online? How do we actually build relationships? What's one of the main platforms out there that relationships are actually built, but most people don't understand? And that was LinkedIn. And so I started going into LinkedIn and looking at how people are going in there and being able to do this. And I looked at the psychology of human connection. And that's kind of where we went in. It was like, how do we actually educate, inspire, and draw people in rather than sell them? How do we get them to choose to want to work with someone rather than being sold into working with someone? And that's by being able to build a personal brand that actually resonates with your ideal audience, right? Like actually builds trust, especially in a world right now where AI is so prevalent everywhere. Trust is one of the biggest factors. People don't believe brands anymore. They want to know the people behind the brand and do they align with their values, right? That's what people are looking at more than anything. And so that's what we started creating. And we got to really work with some amazing human beings. I mean, men and women, I used to read their books on how to be able to start my own company years ago. I mean, like getting to work with people like, John C. Maxwell, Joe Polish, Dan Sullivan. I mean, like there's so many Sally Hogshead. I mean, I could go in for names and names of the people that have just really changed my life for the better. And now I get to help them build a better audience and a better connection to their audience, to build advocates first and allow the byproduct to become clients because most people go, oh, I want clients. I want lead gen. Do you run a lead gen company? Like, no, leads are honestly, I'm gonna say leads are a bad taste in my mouth because like I go with leads usually means you're spamming someone. You're sending out 1,000 messages hoping to get the one sale, and all you're doing is pissing off 999 people. But if you actually treat them like a human being, maybe you still get the one sale, but now you have 999 advocates, and every single one of those advocates could bring you probably another 1,000 people because you treat them with the respect when they're ready now, they're ready later, whatever it is, they become a mouthpiece for what you do. Like, man, I had this amazing conversation with Matt. You need to hear what he's doing, right? That's more powerful. It's not a one-to-one relationship. And so that's what we get to be able to do from being able to humanize their brand to be able to go through and create content that resonates, that's polarizing in a good way, that makes you think, that adds value and educates their audience, and then be able to help them build high-end, high-value relationships that create opportunities. Opportunities being, it might be a relationship, it might be a connection, it might be a sale. But again, it's coming in very naturally in the human aspects. And the way that we do that are honestly, man, it's just the way that my mom taught me how to treat other human beings. I'm just doing it online. And like it's not rocket science. It's innate in all of us.
I think an analogy for this would be something like I'm imagining somebody with a handful of gravel, and that they're throwing it at people like, hey, you want my product? And you're like, ow, hey, stop that dink. Ow, stop it, right? I don't want your product. And like you said, now you just pissed me off versus, hey, I've got this great product. I'd love to help you if you need help, right? And
Yeah.
it's kind of this attraction, law of attraction type thing versus, throwing gravel at your customers.
Yeah. And I mean, hell, I'll tell you exactly. Look, I'm going to lay it out for everybody because I want y'all to understand like it truly isn't. And it seems like a lot of work, but like once you get it done, like I don't need 1,000 clients. Like when you get the right people the right time, like you only need a handful. Like I don't want to make $1 million by selling 1 million people $1 item, right? I want to work with 10 people that are paying me $100,000. And like this is the opportunity to do it. So like one of the first things I realized, Matt, was like I hate cold calling, I hate cold email. And we see in marketers all the time, like, oh, I hate when someone does that, but they do it to everybody else. Like, oh, well, that's what we're taught. Let's use marketing tactics. And it's like, I didn't want to be that person. That's why a lot of marketers, aren't always fond of what I do and what I teach. And I realized that my mom always taught me to appreciate the little things in life, the things that we take for granted. And I learned that the human algorithm online is kind of built like, comment, share, post, like, comment, share, post, like, comment, share, post. Like we're in this continuum. And as marketers, we understand that to be able to get someone's attention to start a conversation, you have to create a stopgap in their patterns. And so the pattern that I realized was that people on LinkedIn, you can see who looked at your profile. I can see everyone that engaged on my post. So those are people that are engaging with me and reaching out to be able to go, hey, Matt, I saw you looked at my profile. I just want to reach out and say thank you. Thank you is an amazing stopgap for someone. Just want to say thank you. I'd love to be able to connect with you and find out what pushed you to look me up. Right? You're thanking them for something they take for granted. It makes them stop. Or, hey, Matt, I just want to reach out and say thank you for liking one of my posts. That's our opening, how we actually connect with other human beings in a human fashion. At the same time, if I want to draw my audience in, the average person on LinkedIn gets less than 1% engagement. So if I see you post on LinkedIn, Matt, like, man, Matt, I saw your interview with Josh. It was amazing. Just want to say thank you so much for sharing it with us. That's much better than saying, hey, Matt, I see you wear shirts. Me too. Let's connect.
Your analogy of wearing a shirt is so funny. Yes. No, but you're right. Gratitude is the highest vibrational frequency on the planet, some of this woo type stuff. But I think it's true. And I think most of us go through our day without ever being thanked. Thank you for going to work today. I know it's really hard, right? Thank you for taking the garbage out. And I don't
Yeah.
know, maybe it's just guys, but I think sometimes we want to be
We
thanked
always
too
feel
much.
underappreciated. It's okay.
We do. And our wives are like, I have to thank you for taking the garbage out. And it's like, well, I appreciate when you do, and I'm
We're
sorry for the
little
times I
puppies. I mean,
didn't.
again, we feel good when that makes us like, that's all. My wife's like, oh, that's all you need. I'm like, yeah, sometimes I'm real easy.
Yeah.
And not,
Yeah.
men aren't complicated too much.
No, I have what I call a gravalanche, and this is different than the gravel handful. But like if I'm having a really bad day, I just start thanking God or the universe or whatever you believe in. Thank you for these
Yeah.
hands. Thank you for these ears. Thank you for the mouth that can complain, but thank you for these feet. Thank you for, the connection that I made today. And just
Yeah.
the more things that you become thankful for, you can change your energy instantly. So that's really great that you do that. Sorry, we have
Yeah,
just a
no, I
few
love
minutes.
that.
We can go a little longer if you have time.
It's okay. I mean, I just want everyone, that's the start, right? Like being able to go through to thank someone that starts a relationship. And so like these are the things that we do with the clients. And I mean, like I said, we get to work with amazing entrepreneurs, we get to work with amazing companies. We've worked with Oracle to AWS to many other clients out there. And it's really, I'm seeing that change and the shift in this world to understand the power of the human being. Because the one thing I want to say, Matt, is that I think in this world now, everyone goes, oh, it's an AI revolution. It's a digital revolution. I call BS on that, right? It's a human revolution right now because as human beings, we have more power than ever with these tools. And if we understand that, what can we actually do to create a better world? That's what I want
It's
everyone to pay attention to.
it starts with the human, and there's nothing new under the sun. So we take what we know and we put it into a computer, and it helps us do some of the mundane tasks. But you're right, this human connection is really what's really important.
Yeah. So, I mean, you and
Who
I were talking a little bit about that before. I was like, man, you're like AI, I don't know. Sometimes I think it's, making us dumber. I'm like, I don't know. I am more just fired up than ever because I'm being able to take things and thoughts that I've always wanted to be able to accomplish, be able to do. And it's actually helping me be able to just be more. And I couldn't do that before. So like I feel like I have more power. And it's really the impact I'm going to create this year, leveraging some of these AI tools. I can't wait to show everybody.
It's amazing. Who is your perfect client? If somebody is out there and they're like, hey, this is a great guy. I like him. I know him now. I trust him. Who should be contacting you to work with you?
It's a great
You have a
question.
bus full of 1,000 people. Who's
Well,
getting off that
look,
bus?
I mean, I could go in. My easiest answer, and everyone always gets mad. I said, look, if you're adding value to this world, not just trying to monetize it, you truly have a product or service that's changing this world, I got your back every day of the week, right? That's at the core. That's the first thing I look for, Matt. Like, unless if someone comes to me like, hey, Josh, can you help me monetize this? I'm not your guy, right? There's 1,000 people behind me that are going to take your money because guess what? That's all they're going to do. They're going to take your
Mhm.
money. If you want to add value or change this world, I got you. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Follow me. I go through these things. We've got different stuff to be able to go through. On the done for you side, where we come in and take over your entire LinkedIn presence, I'll be honest, Matt, everyone goes, oh, you're LinkedIn experts. No, we're human design experts. We are experts at marketing and branding. We just implement across LinkedIn because I want to be the best in the world at one thing. And we've accomplished that with LinkedIn. And so, like, if you're looking for something like that and you're a company that's you know, actually got a small team at least, being able to go through, you've achieved a certain level. We always say you're at least doing revenue anywhere from 3 to 5 million minimum to be able to kind of go in. And you're looking to be able to attack a platform. Like that's the done for you side where we come in and we take over and we really shine and allow you to be able to stay in your zone of genius and allow us to share with the world who you are and who your company represents.
Do you have time for two more questions?
Of course, for you
Okay.
all day.
All right. So let's say that somebody's not at the 3 to 5 million. They're a new entrepreneur. They're just kind of getting their feet underneath them. What are a couple things that they could do, some action items on LinkedIn that would help their presence or their brand until they can get to you?
First time, look, even if you're not that, we just built one of the most powerful training programs I've ever built for LinkedIn. I mean, I basically my wife and I poured into everything that we've ever shared and done for our elite clients into this, and then partner with one of our friends that runs an amazing AI company to be able to then fast track them even more. So, like, if you're just starting out, like, that's something that's amazing. And I mean, I think we've got it like, it's like 495 or something. It's insane the
That's
value that
great.
you're getting to be able to go in there. But like, even if you're not even at that point, follow me on LinkedIn, connect with me, like, because I share everything we do freely. Because I look at it this world, Matt, like, I want to be able to share everything that I do freely. If you want to be able to I want everyone to be able to get to a level. But if you want to get there faster, those are the people that work with me, right?
Yep.
And so if you're going to start on LinkedIn, first and foremost, don't start posting content, don't start messaging, because if they go back to your profile, they're just going to bounce. So take the time, energy, and effort to really flush that out, to humanize it, to be able to tell not your resume, right? I don't need a list of jobs. I want to be able to tell me your career journey. If you look at mine, it starts off as me as a waiter at Chili's 2 decades ago, right? People
Mm.
go all the time like, oh my God, Josh, you worked at Chili's? Me too, right? Commonality, connection. These are all touch points. And so I want everyone to be able to tell that career journey that you've gone of where you've been to where you're at to where you're going and take the time out outside of those things. Like I have on my profile as well. Think of things that you wouldn't put on there. Like for many years, I've been the resident Spider-Man at Dell Children's Hospital here in Austin, Texas,
That's right.
right?
Yes.
So like these things like that, like you need to be able to show people who you are so they can connect. And every one of these pieces, LinkedIn is the most indexable site out there right now on the platform that everyone uses, which is Google. And so when you take the time to be able your profile, if you search your profile right now, Matt or anyone listening, I guarantee you, if it's not the first result, it's probably one of the top three. If you've got a LinkedIn profile, it will be one of the top three results that pop up on Google results. That's how well it's indexed. And where we're going, because Microsoft owns LinkedIn, and let's be honest, Microsoft owns OpenAI, even though they don't want to really admit it. We've all seen that kind of play out. They are using LinkedIn over the last year to be able to index all of LinkedIn the way that Google does as well too for the basis of the next generation of search, which is generative AI, where you'll see them actually giving you results based on if you ask, hey, who's the best LinkedIn expert in the world? It might say Joshua B. Lee and give you a whole thing.
I think it will.
But we're used to having results, right? And having those links to be able to go through. That's not going to be the case anymore. And so if you want to not only be the future of search, but the future of business, you want to be able to show up, start getting on LinkedIn now and start by building out your profile with every piece of information you can add in there. I don't want to just be able to see you're the CEO or founder of sales of, and that's like you weren't born that way. Where do you start out? Give me your full life story. Give me everything.
Absolutely. You're working with your wife, Rachel.
Yeah.
This is the second one, right?
Yeah.
Yep. You're working with your wife, Rachel. You have a hilarious, like 15-second clip on your website of you doing an intro and her just laughing at you. I love it. What's it like to work with your wife?
It's amazing. One of the most amazing things and one of the most difficult things I've ever done in my life. I don't want to sugarcoat anything. Like it's taken a long time for Rachel and I to be able to get here. When we first met, Matt, I was coming out of a 10-year divorce, right? She was actually leaving. She was getting her MBA here at the University of Texas and told me that she was going to Seattle to go work for Microsoft. She's like, "Do you want to do long distance?" And in my back of my mind, I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Like, we just met. Like, you want me to do long distance? I just got a 10-year relationship." And, I said, "Look, we're going to do this. I want to be 100% me 100% of the time. So you tell me 100% that everything you love, you hate, all the different things. I'll do the same. And let's see how that goes." And honestly, that's what's been said true with our business as well. We've been able to understand, like, hey, when we need to talk to about husband and wife, or we need to be able to put our business hats on. We've been able to talk those things out. And like that's been amazing to be able to do and to be able to have that one life with my partner. And I'm not going to tell you it's for everybody. There are times that it's tough, but when you can get through that, you can, as I tell her, if we can get through this, we can get through anything. There's nothing stopping us.
For sure. And how long have you been in the business together? 10 years?
I started the company 10 years ago. She came on board and left. Begged her for years to leave the corporate world, honestly, because I knew she was amazing and I needed her part of the company. She came part of the company about 3.5, almost 4 years ago. So yeah, and now as of this last year, I got my ego out of the way because I realized I've got two daughters and I wanted to be able to show them how powerful this world can be. And Rachel had said, "Hey, if we were a female-owned company, how much more impact we can make in this world." And so as of this last year, I took because I kept on fighting. Well, I started this company 10 years ago, going through that. And I finally put my ego to the side and I realized what I could actually do not only for our company, but to be able to show my girls how powerful they can be as well. And so we made that shift too.
That's amazing. I work with my wife and I completely understand the, husband and wife versus coworkers. And
Yeah.
it's a challenge. It's a real challenge. So kudos to you for doing it and doing it
Thank
well.
you. Yeah.
Yes. Josh, if people want to follow you, you mentioned LinkedIn. If they want to go to your website, what's your website?
Yeah, of course, follow me anywhere. Look for Joshua Beely. Usually that's almost every social platform out there. But find me at standoutauthority.com. I mean, that's our website. Come in, check us out. I mean, look, I'd rather you just send me a message on LinkedIn saying, "Hey, I heard you with Matt. And I love Matt because of X." I want everyone to tell me, send me a personal message on LinkedIn, not that blank connection request of why you love Matt's podcast and what you learn, because not only does that allow me to get to know you better, it allows me to get to know Matt better as well. So that's what I would love more than anything.
I love that. That's so great. Thank you for that. Well, is there anything I didn't ask you that you want to talk about before we wrap up?
Man, we did everything. I mean, the only thing, I mean, you're the first person that didn't ask me about my shoes behind me, but we don't need to get into that because that'll take another 2 hours if we start talking about my sneakers. So.
All right. Well, we'll end it there. Thank you so much, Joshua, for being on my podcast. I really appreciate it. And I hope that you have just all the best luck with LinkedIn and your dopamine dealing days.
Thank you, Matt. I appreciate you.
All right. Thank you.